Did George Gershwin influence people during the Great Depression?
Everyone loved George Gershwin. So should you. Introduction. We chose the category of music of the 20s and 30s because we are both musicians. The 20s and 30s were a time of musical advancement that were known to help people through the times of the Great Depression. In the 20s and 30s, jazz started becoming very popular, with one of the best musicians being George Gershwin.
His genre for compositions was classical jazz, but some of his songs were classified as pop songs. Ivy and I wanted to know if George Gershwin really influenced people and if he helped brighten lives with his music during the Great Depression.
George Gershwin. Who was he? George Jacob Gershwin was an American composer and pianist whose music was mainly focused on jazz. Born in Brooklyn, New York on September 26, 1898, George was the second son of two Russian immigrants. As a boy, Gershwin started to secretly learn piano, and in 1914, Gershwin dropped out of high school to be a Tin Pan Alley song plugger. In 1923, Gershwin was asked by Paul Whiteman to write original work to be performed at Alien Hall. Gershwin used the low trill of the solo clarinet and its spine-tingling run up the scale and created Rhapsody in Blue for Whiteman, and Rhapsody in Blue is still one of Gershwin's most popular compositions that everyone loves even to this day.
In 1924, George teamed up with his brother Ira and started writing music together and stayed partners for a while. In 1926, Gershwin read Porgy by DuBose Hayward and immediately recognized it as a perfect vehicle for folk opera using jazz and blue idioms. Porgy and Bess was one of Gershwin's greatest undertakings, integrating unforgettable songs with dramatic incidents. It premiered on Broadway on October 10, 1935. His symphonic works were becoming part of the standard repertoire for concerts and recitals, and his songs brought him fame and fortune. It all came to a head, though, on July 11, 1937, while working on the Goldwyn Follies, that George Gershwin died of a brain tumor, at just 38 years old. The world was shocked, as if he was a close family member that had just passed away. George Gershwin is still known today for his jazz music, and forever changing the world of music, and is still loved today by everyone.
These are some of George Gershwin's most famous pieces.
Life is like jazz. It's better when you improvise. George Gershwin.
How music influenced the Great Depression. According to many people who lived during the Depression, they believe that it is hard to be sad and dance at the same time. Songwriters wrote music that identified with the public or to keep people's minds off the hardships. Some famous songs at the time were Brother Can You Spare a Dime by Bing Crosby, I Got a Right to Sing the Blues by Louis Armstrong, Life is Just a Bowl of Cherries by Judy Garland, and The Big Rock Candy Mountain by Harry McClintock, and Over the Rainbow by Judy Garland. These songs had a positive effect on people during the Great Depression, but George Gershwin's music was still a #1 hit.
Was George Gershwin the most influential musician during the Great Depression? George Gershwin was the most influential musician. He composed Broadway musicals and wrote original scores for many films which gave hope to those suffering in the Great Depression. When people think of the Great Depression, many only remember the hardships of waiting in long lines for food or losing jobs. Many people forget the hopeful music that lifted the spirits of those who were suffering. He was one of the most sought-out musicians during the Great Depression. His music was considered the best. Everyone loved him, and so should you.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching.